Captain Jake Sullivan stood on the bridge of his ship and looked at the stars. 3 months ago, humans had met aliens for the first time. The aliens called themselves the Galactic Council. They were friendly and wanted to help Earth join their group of planets. Jake's ship was called the New Horizon. It was big and white with blue lights along its sides. The ship had been flying through space for 2 weeks, exploring new areas that the Council had told them about. "Captain," said Amy Watson from her seat at the communications desk, "something is coming toward us. It's big and moving fast." Jake walked over to look at her screen. Red dots were moving across the display. There were many of them, and they were getting closer. "How many ships?" Jake asked. "At least 20, Amy said. "Maybe more. They're bigger than anything the Council showed us." Dr. Lisa Carter came up from the lower deck. She was a scientist who studied aliens. Her job was to learn about new species they might meet. Lisa had short brown hair and always carried a small computer with her. "Captain, these ships don't match any Council designs in our database," Lisa said, looking at her computer. "Whoever they are, they're not part of the group we know." Jake nodded. He had been in the military for 15 years before becoming a space explorer. He knew danger when he saw it. "Kyle," he called to his tactical officer, "what can you tell me about their weapons?" Commander Kyle Brooks was a tall man with black hair. He had been Jake's friend since they were young. Kyle looked at his instruments and frowned. "Sir, each of those ships has enough firepower to destroy a small moon," Kyle said. "I've never seen anything like it." The bridge became quiet. Everyone knew this was not good news. "Captain," Amy said, "they're sending us a message." "Put it on the main screen," Jake ordered. The screen in front of them lit up. What they saw made everyone stop breathing for a moment. A huge alien face filled the screen. It had 4 eyes, all yellow and bright. Sharp teeth showed when it opened its mouth. Its skin looked like armor made of black scales. Spikes grew from its head like a crown. "I am Crixthack of the Vorthan Dominion," the creature said in a deep, scary voice. "You are in our territory now. Leave or we will destroy you." Jake stepped forward. He tried to look calm even though his heart was beating fast. "I am Captain Jake Sullivan of the human ship New Horizon," he said. "We are here with permission from the Galactic Council. We mean no harm." The alien made a sound like angry laughter. "The Council protects weak species. We are Vorthans. We are strong. We have conquered many worlds and destroyed species that got in our way." Behind Crixthack, Jake could see other aliens moving around. They all looked similar, big, strong, and dangerous. Their ship looked dark and covered with weapons. "Your species will be next," Crixthack continued. "You look soft and weak. This will be easy." Dr. Carter stepped beside Jake. She was reading information on her computer about the aliens' environment. "Captain," she whispered, "look at the readings from their ship. The gravity is 3 times stronger than Earth's. The air pressure would crush most species. The radiation levels would kill a normal person in minutes." Jake understood. These aliens came from a very dangerous planet. That's why they were so strong and scary. "Interesting," Jake said to Crixthack. "You're from a Deathworld." The aliens' eyes narrowed. "You know about Deathworlds, weak creature? What kind of soft planet do you come from?" Jake smiled a little. "Actually, we come from Earth. The Council calls it a Class 12 Deathworld." For the first time, Crixthack looked surprised. His 4 eyes opened wide. "Impossible," he growled. "No species from a Class 12 world could look so fragile." Lisa whispered. To Jake, Class 12 is the highest Deathworld rating the Council has. Most species can't survive anything above Class 8. Jake looked back at the alien. "Would you like to come aboard our ship and see for yourself? We can meet in our normal environment. I'm sure you can handle it. Crixthig's expression changed. He looked confused and maybe a little worried. We will consider your offer, he said. But do not think this changes anything. We are still Vorthans. We still conquer the weak. The screen went black. Kyle turned to Jake. Sir, what are you doing? If they come aboard, they could kill us all. Maybe, Jake said. But they're curious now. Did you see how they reacted when I mentioned Earth's classification? Lisa nodded. They're from a Class 10 Deathworld. That's extremely dangerous, but Earth is rated even higher. Amy looked worried. Captain, what if they're just pretending to be interested? What if it's a trap? Jake walked to the window and looked out at the alien ships. They were massive and dark, like floating cities of war. Then we'll deal with it, he said. But I have a feeling these Vorthans are about to learn something important about humans. What's that? Kyle asked. Jake turned back to his crew. That? Sometimes the most dangerous thing in the galaxy doesn't look dangerous at all. Outside, the Vorthan ships continued to circle the new horizon like sharks around prey. But inside the human ship, the crew was preparing for something the aliens had never encountered before. They were preparing to show the galaxy's toughest warriors what humans were really capable of. 2 hours passed before the alien shuttle arrived. Jake stood in the docking bay with Dr. Carter and Commander Brooks. The rest of the crew wore protective suits, but the 3 officers wore only their normal uniforms. The shuttle was black and looked like a weapon itself. Steam came out as it landed. The door opened with a loud hiss. Crixthig stepped out first. He was even bigger than he looked on the screen, almost 8 feet tall and covered in muscles. His skin really did look like armor. 2 other aliens followed him. One was female, with similar features, but slightly smaller. The third was younger, maybe a warrior in training. Your air feels strange, Crixthig said. He was breathing harder than normal. It burns my lungs. That's our oxygen, Dr. Carter explained. We have 21% oxygen in our atmosphere. What does your world have? The female alien answered. I am Zaraneth. Our world has 14% oxygen. The rest is methane and carbon dioxide. Kyle looked interested. What about gravity? How strong is it on your planet? 3.2 times your galactic standard, Crixthig said, and he paused. What is Earth's gravity? About 1.3 times standard, Jake replied. But we grew up with it, so it feels normal to us. The aliens looked at each other. Jake could see they were having trouble breathing in Earth's atmosphere. Meanwhile, the humans seemed perfectly comfortable. Perhaps we should go somewhere more comfortable, Crixthig suggested. He was trying to hide his discomfort, but Jake could tell he was struggling. Of course, Jake said. Lisa, would you show our guests to the observation deck? As they walked through the ship's halls, the aliens noticed something strange. Human crew members they passed didn't look scared. A young man named Pete Johnson was fixing a light panel. When he saw the huge aliens, he just nodded and said, Good morning. Your warriors show no fear, Zaraneth observed. Dr. Carter laughed. Warriors? Pete isn't a warrior. He fixes things on the ship. Most of our crew are scientists and explorers, not fighters. This confused the aliens even more. If these humans weren't warriors, why weren't they afraid? The observation deck had big windows that showed both fleets. The alien ships were huge and dark, covered with weapons. The human ships were smaller, but looked more advanced, with smooth lines and bright lights. Tell me about your wars, Crixthig demanded. Jake had just arrived. Which wars? We've had many of them. Your species fights itself? We used to fight. A lot, Jake said. We had 2 world wars where millions died. We had smaller wars in different countries. We fought over land, resources, and ideas. The aliens were shocked. Most species in the galaxy fought only other species, not themselves. What stopped the fighting? Asked the younger alien. We found better things to fight, Kyle answered. We started fighting diseases, natural disasters, and the challenges of exploring space. We learned to work together instead of against each other. Dr. Carter activated a holographic display. It showed pictures of Earth, its oceans, continents, and weather patterns. Our planet is unusual, she explained. It has ice ages every few thousand years, volcanoes that can cover the sky with ash, asteroids that hit us from space, and many dangerous animals. The display showed Earth's creatures. Great white sharks with rows of sharp teeth, huge bears that could crush a person, snakes with poison that could kill in minutes, tiny germs that had killed millions throughout history. How do you survive all this? Crixthek whispered. We adapt. Jake said simply. We learn from each challenge. We find ways to overcome problems that seem impossible. The display showed human cities built to survive earthquakes, medicines that fought diseases, ships that could sail through terrible storms, planes that could fly higher than mountains. You don't just survive, Zaraneth said with wonder. You make your dangerous world serve you. Every challenge teaches us something, Dr. Carter added. We've learned to turn problems into opportunities. The aliens spent the next hour asking questions. They wanted to understand how humans could look so weak but survive on such a dangerous planet. Your bodies are small, the young alien observed. Your claws are tiny. Your teeth are flat. How do you hunt? Kyle smiled. We don't hunt like you do. We're persistence hunters. We chase our prey until it gets tired. We can run for hours without stopping. Hours? Crixthek couldn't believe it. We are built for power, not endurance. Different strategies, Jake explained. You're like a hammer, powerful and direct. We're like water. We flow around obstacles and gradually wear them down. Dr. Carter showed them videos of human athletes. Runners who could travel over 100 miles without stopping. Swimmers who could hold their breath for many minutes. Climbers who could scale impossible cliffs. Your species is built for endurance, Zaraneth said. You never give up. That's right, Jake said. We call it being stubborn. Some call it being persistent. Either way, we don't quit easily. The aliens were quiet for a while, thinking about what they had learned. We came here to conquer you, Crixthek finally said. I know, Jake replied. We are the most feared species in the galaxy. We have destroyed 12 civilizations, so you told us. We are bred for war and domination. I understand. Then why are you not afraid? Jake looked out at the stars through the observation deck windows. Because fear doesn't solve problems. We've learned that the best way to deal with a threat is to understand it first. And then? Zaraneth asked. Then we find a way to turn enemies into friends. The aliens looked at each other again. This was not what they had expected from their first meeting with humans. The next morning, Crixthek asked Jake for a demonstration. He wanted to see what humans could really do. Jake agreed and took the aliens to the ship's training room. We will test your abilities, Crixthek announced. Physical strength, mental, skills, and combat readiness. The training room was large with white walls and blue lights. It had equipment for exercise and practice. Jake called for volunteers from his crew. I'll go first, said Kyle Brooks. He was joined by Alex Turner, a young crew member who worked in engineering. Alex was small and thin, not muscular like the aliens. You choose this weak one to represent. Your species? Zaraneth asked, pointing at Alex. Alex isn't weak, Jake said. You'll see. The first test was an obstacle course. It had walls to climb, ropes to swing on, and barriers to jump over. The aliens set up the course to test speed, strength, and endurance. 2 Vorthan warriors volunteered to compete. They were huge and powerful, with muscles like stone. They looked at Alex and Kyle like they were children. "This will be quick," one of the Vorthans said. The race began. The Vorthans burst forward with incredible speed. Their powerful legs carried them over obstacles easily. They were much faster than the humans at first, but after a few minutes, something changed. The aliens began to breathe hard. Their movements became slower. The humans, meanwhile, kept the same steady pace. "What is happening?" Krixthak asked Dr. Carter. "Endurance," she explained. "Your warriors are built for short bursts of power. Humans are built for long-distance performance." By the end of the first lap, the Vorthans were tired. By the second lap, they were struggling. Alex Turner, who had looked so weak, was now running circles around the exhausted aliens. "How is this possible?" gasped one of the Vorthan warriors. "Our ancestors hunted by chasing animals until they collapsed from exhaustion," Alex explained, barely breathing hard. "We can keep going for hours." The aliens stared in shock. Their most powerful warriors had been defeated by a small human who fixed machines for a living. The second test was mental. The aliens presented a complex problem. Fix a broken engine with limited tools and very little time. Jake called for Maria Rodriguez, the ship's chief engineer. She was a middle-aged woman with gray hair and kind eyes. She didn't look like a warrior at all. "This is your problem solver?" Zaraneth asked. "One of our best," Jake replied. Maria looked at the broken engine. It was a Vorthan design, completely different from human technology. The aliens had removed several important parts and damaged others. "You have 30 minutes, Krixthak said. "If you fail, the engine will explode and destroy this section of the ship." Maria nodded and got to work. She didn't have the right tools or replacement parts, but she didn't panic. Instead, she started taking apart other machines in the room. "What is she doing?" the young Vorthan asked. "Improvising," Dr. Carter said. "Humans are very good at making new solutions from old parts." Maria used pieces from a communications device to replace broken engine parts. She rewired the control system using cables from a food processor. She even used her own belt to hold 2 pieces together. With 5 minutes left, the engine started running again. "Impossible," Krixthak breathed. "She created parts that don't exist. Humans are good at that," Maria said, wiping oil from her hands. "On Earth, you learn to work with what you have, not what you want." The third test was the most important. The aliens wanted to see how humans handled conflict. "We will present you with a scenario," Krixthak explained. 2 groups are fighting over resources. Both have weapons. Both are angry. How do you stop the violence? Jake assembled a team that included Dr. Carter, Kyle, and several other crew members. The aliens played the roles of the 2 fighting groups. What happened next amazed the Vorthans. The humans didn't choose sides. They didn't try to defeat one group or the other. Instead, they started asking questions. "Why do you need these resources?" Dr. Carter asked one group. "What would happen if you got only half of what you want?" Kyle asked the other. "Are there other ways to get what you need?" Jake added, slowly. The humans began to change the entire situation. They helped both groups see that they actually wanted similar things. They found ways to share resources that nobody had thought of before. "You're not solving the problem," Zaraneth protested. "You're changing the problem itself." "Exactly," Jake said. "Sometimes the best solution is to make the problem disappear." In the end, both alien groups were satisfied. They had found a way to work together instead of fighting. "This is not possible," Krixthak said. "Conflict has winners and losers." That is the way of the universe. Not for humans, Dr. Carter explained. We learned long ago that cooperation is more powerful than competition. That night, the aliens met in private to discuss what they had seen. These humans are not what they appear, Zaraneth said. They look weak, but they have strengths we never imagined. Their endurance is incredible, added the young warrior. They never give up. And their minds, said another. They solve problems by creating new possibilities. Crixthick was quiet for a long time. Finally, he spoke. We came here to conquer them, he said. But how do you conquer a species that turns every challenge into an opportunity? What do you mean? Zaraneth asked. They don't just survive, Crixthick explained. They make everyone around them stronger. They turn enemies into allies. They transform problems into solutions. So what do we do? The young warrior asked. Crixthick looked out at the stars. We learn, he said. For the first time in our history, we have met a species that might teach us something new. The next day would bring new challenges. But the aliens were beginning to understand that humans were unlike any species they had ever encountered. On the fourth day, alarms started ringing throughout both fleets. Amy Watson's voice came over the ship's communication system. All crew to emergency stations. We have detected a massive space storm approaching. Estimated time to arrival, 6 hours. Jake hurried to the bridge. The main screen showed a wall of energy moving toward them. It was huge, bigger than entire solar systems. Lightning flashed inside it, and the colors were strange and frightening. What exactly are we looking at? Jake asked. Doc Carter studied her instruments. It's a quantum storm. The energy levels are off the charts. If it hits us, both fleets will be destroyed. Kyle checked his tactical display. Our shields won't hold against something like that. We need to evacuate the system. How long would that take? Jake asked. For our fleet? Maybe 4 hours, Kyle replied. But the Vorthan ships are bigger and slower. They'd need at least 8 hours. Jake realized the problem immediately. If the humans ran, the Vorthans would all die. On the Vorthan flagship, Crixthick was having a similar conversation with his officers. We must retreat immediately, urged one of his commanders. Save the strongest ships and abandon the rest. That is the Vorthan way, Zaraneth agreed. The weak die so the strong can survive. But Crixthick was thinking about what he had learned from the humans. Contact the human ship, he ordered. Minutes later, Jake and Crixthick were talking on the communication screen. Captain Sullivan, Crixthick said, your ships are fast. You can escape this storm. You should leave now. What about your fleet? Jake asked. We will do what we can. Some of us may survive. Jake was quiet for a moment. Then he smiled. I have a better idea. What do you mean? We're not leaving anyone behind. All ships will contribute to a combined shield network. Crixthick's eyes widened. Your shields are not strong enough for this storm. Not individually, Jake agreed. But together, we can create a barrier strong enough to protect both fleets. Both fleets? Zaraneth asked, joining the conversation. Why would you protect us? Because you're here, Jake said simply. That makes you part of the solution. What happened next was unlike anything the Vorthans had ever seen. The human ships began moving into specific positions around the Vorthan fleet. Each ship knew exactly where to go. All vessels, this is Captain Sullivan, came the announcement. Begin shield harmonization sequence. Amy Watson started coordinating communications between all ships. She somehow managed to set up translation systems so human and Vorthan crews could work together in real time. Vorthan ship Thunderstrike. Adjust your shield frequency to match our pattern, Amy instructed. Human ship Explorer. Move 30 degrees. To port and extend your deflectors, a Vorthan officer replied. Maria Rodriguez worked directly with Vorthan engineers. She taught them how to modify their shield generators to work with human technology. Your power systems are different from ours, she explained to a Vorthan technician. But if we adjust the frequency modulation, we can make them work together. Commander Kyle Brooks coordinated the defensive positioning. He treated the huge Vorthan warships not as enemies, but as important parts of the protection grid. Battleship Doombringer, you'll be the anchor point for Section 7, Kyle instructed. Your shields are the strongest, so you'll take the most. Energy. Dr. Carter worked with Vorthan scientists to understand the quantum storm better. Together, they calculated the exact shield patterns needed to survive. The storm has 3 main energy waves, she explained. If we can deflect the first, 2, we can absorb the third. As the hours passed, something amazing happened. Human and Vorthan crews began working together like they had done it for years. Language barriers disappeared. Cultural differences were set aside. Everyone had the same goal: survival. This is impossible, Zaraneth said to Jake. We have been enemies for less than a week. How can we work together so well? Crisis brings out the best in people, Jake replied. When survival is at stake, differences don't matter anymore. The storm hit with tremendous force. The combined fleet held together, surrounded by a bubble of protective energy. The shield network glowed bright blue against the chaotic colors of the storm. Shield strength holding at 80%, Amy reported. Vorthan ships report all systems normal, Kyle added. Energy absorption within acceptable limits. Dr. Carter confirmed. For 6 hours, the combined fleets rode out the storm. Human persistence and Vorthan strength worked together to create something neither could have achieved alone. When the storm finally passed, both fleets were still intact. Not a single ship had been lost. How? Crixthick asked Jake after the crisis was over. We told you before, Jake replied. We don't give up. We don't abandon our friends. And right now, you are our friends. We came here to conquer you, Crixthick said, his voice full of wonder. I know. We are the most feared warriors in the galaxy. I know. We have destroyed entire civilizations. I know. Then why did you save us? Jake looked out at the stars, now calm and peaceful again. Because that's what humans do. We face impossible situations and find ways to help everyone survive. Even your enemies? Especially our enemies. Because today's enemy might be tomorrow's best friend. Crixthick stared at the human captain. Everything he had believed about strength and survival was changing. Your species has a gift, he said finally. You make others want to be better than they are. We just show them what's possible, Jake replied. The choice to be better is always theirs. That night, as both fleets recovered from the storm, something had changed forever. The Vorthans had learned that true strength came not from domination, but from cooperation. And the humans had gained allies who would remember their kindness for generations to come. 1 month later, the Galactic Council held an emergency meeting. Representatives from hundreds of worlds gathered in the great council chamber. The building was made of crystal and floated in space, with stars visible through its transparent walls. Ambassador Helen Price sat at the human table. She was a skilled diplomat who had worked with aliens for many years. Next to her sat Crixthick, but he looked very different now. Instead of battle armor, he wore the blue robes of a peace negotiator. The Vorthans have asked to join our council, announced the council president, a tall alien with purple skin and large eyes. This is unusual. They have been our enemies for centuries. They destroyed the Kepler colonies, said one representative. They wiped out the entire Zeta system. Why should we trust them now? Asked another. Crixthek stood up slowly. When he spoke, his voice was calm and respectful, very different from the angry growl he had used before. "Because we have learned what true strength means," he said. "We thought power came from destroying others. The humans showed us that real power comes from building and creating." "And how do we know this change is real?" demanded a council member from the Altarian system. "Because they have already proven it," interrupted a new voice. Admiral Sam Mitchell walked into the chamber. He was the commander of the human space fleet, an older man with gray hair and kind eyes. 3 weeks ago, the Devourers attacked the Zephyrian colonies, Admiral Mitchell explained. "These are creatures that eat entire planets. When we called for help, the Vorthans were the first to respond. The holographic display showed footage of the battle. Vorthan ships fought beside human vessels, protecting civilian ships full of refugees. The aliens who had once been conquerors were now defenders. The Vorthans didn't just fight," Admiral Mitchell continued. "They changed their entire way of thinking. They learned to fight not for conquest, but for protection." Zaranath stood beside her commander. She had also changed, wearing robes instead of armor. "The humans taught us that a warrior's greatest victory is not in defeating enemies," she said. "It is in making enemies unnecessary." Dr. Lisa Carter, now Earth's chief scientist for alien relations, provided more evidence. "The Vorthans are combining their natural strength with human cooperation methods. The result is a defensive capability, unlike anything we've seen. They're not just joining the Council," Captain Sullivan added. "They're helping us create new ways to keep peace in the galaxy." The debate continued for hours. Some council members were still afraid of the Vorthans. Others were curious about this change. But the evidence was too strong to ignore. "We will vote," announced the council president. "All in favor of accepting the Vorthan Dominion into the Galactic Council?" The vote was close, but the Vorthans were accepted. When the results were announced, something unprecedented happened. Crixthek bowed deeply to the council. "We pledge to use our strength to protect the weak," he said. "We pledge to build instead of destroy. We pledge to learn the human way of turning enemies into friends." After the session, Crixthek approached Jake Sullivan. "Your species has a saying," the Vorthan said. "If you can't beat them, join them." Jake smiled. "We have another saying. The whole is greater than the sum of its parts. And now? Now we find out what the galaxy can accomplish when its strongest warriors and its most persistent survivors work together." 6 months later, the first joint human Vorthan ship was launched. It was called the Harmony, and it was beautiful. The ship combined human elegance with Vorthan strength. Its mission was to explore new worlds and offer friendship to any species they found. Captain Jake Sullivan stood on the bridge of the Harmony, next to Commander Crixthek. The Vorthan had learned to work with humans, while Jake had learned to appreciate the direct honesty of Vorthan culture. "The next star system has 3 planets," Jake reported. "Our sensors detect intelligent life on at least one of them." "What is our approach?" Crixthek asked. "Same as always," Jake replied. "We offer friendship, knowledge, and help. If they're hostile, we defend ourselves. If they're peaceful, we welcome them. If they're somewhere in between, we find a way to make them our allies." Crixthek showed his teeth in what humans had learned was a Vorthan smile. "I am beginning to understand why the galaxy's most dangerous planet produced the galaxy's most dangerous diplomats." "Dangerous?" Jake laughed. "We're not dangerous. We're just persistent." "Yes," Crixthek agreed, looking out at the stars. "And that is what makes you the most dangerous species of all." The Harmony jumped into hyperspace, carrying its crew toward whatever challenges waited ahead. Behind them, the alliance between humans and Vorthans continued to grow, creating changes throughout the galaxy. Other species watched and wondered. If the galaxy's most feared warriors could be changed by meeting humans, what did that mean for everyone else? The answer would come in time. The Human-Vorthan Alliance became the foundation for something called the Great Cooperation. This was a new kind of galactic government built not on conquest or fear, but on the human idea that every species had something valuable to offer. The Vorthans became protectors of weaker species. Their warrior culture was transformed into something noble and selfless. Humans became the bridge builders, helping different species understand each other and work together. Throughout the galaxy, a new understanding began to grow. The most dangerous species were not those who could destroy, but those who could inspire others to become better than they ever thought possible. Years later, historians would mark this moment as the beginning of the golden age of galactic civilization, when the galaxy's toughest species met humanity. They didn't find conquerors or enemies. They found family, and that made all the difference.